Dopesick, the brand new series on Disney Plus Hotstar based on the incredible book by Beth Macy, takes a deep dive into the opioid crisis in America. Now, in it, Michael Stuhlbarg plays Richard Sackler, the president of Purdue Pharma and the man responsible for the creation and the abuse of OxyContin in the United States. In this Goggler exclusive, we sat down with Michael Stuhlbarg himself to talk about how he got into the mind of this infamous human being. Check it out.
I think I can make this the biggest drug in the world.
Michael, it's an absolute pleasure. So many years ago, I read this piece in Esquire, and it was a Chuck Klosterman article, and he was speaking to Val Kilmer. And Val Kilmer was telling him how he was essentially a better Jim Morrison than Jim Morrison. And he claimed that it was because the people in those circumstances didn't have self-knowledge. I bring that up because I want to know what you learned about Richard Sackler. He sounds like such an enigma. I was skipping through that 8-hour deposition video on YouTube, and I kept thinking, incredible. The man's incredible. But for all the wrong reasons. So what did you learn about Richard Sackler?
Well, first of all, that's a really fascinating comment. Thank you for sharing that with me. And I imagine that none of us have the self-knowledge, or at least the hindsight, or whatever you'd call that, the foresight, the hindsight,
Right?
to be objective enough in our own lives to be able to look at ourselves and have a kind of self-knowledge about what it is that we're going through. What did I learn about Richard Sackler? Is that your question? I learned a lot of things. I mean, I knew very little about him before. I knew, I learned a touch from Beth Macy's book. I learned a bunch from other publications, and mostly, as you did, I watched as much of that video as I could get my hands on over and over and over again, because there's very little substitution for watching the real thing. And other than, having an opportunity to meet with him, which I did not, I learned about his family. I learned about his uncles. I learned about his father and his parents, about his upbringing. I learned about his ambition. I learned about this amazing drive that he had to make this drug happen, and the fact that he spent 10 times as much on making this drug happen, more than Purdue had ever spent in trying to create a drug. And so he dug himself quite a deep hole that he had to get himself out of, and he got out of it. But at the same time, I learned that he seemed to not care about a lot of the repercussions of what the drug that he made happen. He seemed to build a wall in terms of those who abused the medication and didn't really have much sympathy for them. So a lot of things that I've learned about him and his journey, and I tried to take all that information and walk around in his shoes for a while and see what it might have felt like, and that's what we have to look at in the show, a part of it.
Do you believe, with everything that you've ascertained about this man, do you believe that he was the hero of his own story, that he really had this obsession with curing pain?
I'd like to think so. Yes, I'd like to think that he set an enormous challenge for himself, and he realized his ambitions in an astronomical fashion. However, he didn't really pay much attention to the repercussions of those actions. I don't know about hero of his own story, but I think he set about to do something extraordinary, and I'd like to believe his intentions were pure at the beginning, and maybe those intentions changed over the course of time. I don't know. Unless he talks to us and tells us himself about what his intentions were. There's some things that can be gleaned from that deposition video, and I know he chooses his words very, very carefully. And it's hard to fault him through a lot of those things. He's a very, very bright individual, and that's plain. So who knows? I guess until he tells us whether he
Yeah.
feels the way, we'll never know.
I've got to ask you about one scene in particular because I think we've only seen the first 3 episodes, is what they gave us. It hasn't dropped officially in Malaysia yet. And the most affection that we see from Richard is for his dog.
Mm.
And it feels like, and when that moment happened, I was like, oh God, I don't think I've seen him be affectionate with anyone else in this show. And I
Right.
was wondering about that moment in particular. And was that something in the script? I mean, how did you, or how did the writers, like, where did that come from?
It came
Because
from
it says so much.
It does. It absolutely does. And Unch, his
Yeah.
dog, was a huge part of his unfettered. Uh, uh, I don't know what you'd call it, but I mean, he loved his dog. You know, he absolutely adored his dog. Um, and I think he seemed to me on the outside to be somewhat of a quite a lonely individual. And it makes sense to me that someone who may have mistrust for the humans around them may
Right.
find animals to be the sole respite in his life. And so that seemed to make absolute sense for me. Plus, I love dogs too, and the dog that we got to make the show with is called Tank, and Tank
Right.
was extraordinary,
He looked
extraordinary.
huge.
He was massive and huge and loving, everything you'd want him to be, and so it was easy to love him. And I think it may have shown an element of who he was, away from his work, away from his obstacles, away from the influence of his family.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
Michael, there's a question I'm asking everyone whom I'm speaking to today. And I know that watching this has kind of changed me and my worldview in certain ways. And I'm always curious about how making it has changed the people involved. And how has it changed your worldview? And also, has it changed your perception on medication?
um, I think if it's changed my opinion about medication, it's something that we as individuals owe ourselves to do as much research about the medications that we may need or think we need, or our doctors tell us would help us. The more we know, um, the more informed our choices can be. Um, about my worldview, I'm sure it will have, um, having worked on this with these individuals and uh, seeing people work at such a high level with such complicated stories, um, I'm sure it will and has uh, it will have and has had its effect on me as an individual. What that might be, I don't really know. Sometimes you experience these projects kind of as um,
I guess it's the people you're playing in some
well,
ways.
absolutely, yeah. And Richard's existence was quite solitary. But I think if this story has a message, um, it has many messages, I suppose, but that um, we should take care of each other in terms of whatever our ambitions are, and hopefully see things in their entirety as much as possible, as opposed to blocking out huge swaths of individuals as abusers. In this case, in Richard's journey, it's ignoring the abusers and
Yeah.
trying to help the greater humanity to be rid of pain in their lives. um, I don't know, it is a kind of cautionary tale, and maybe we can look at the story that way. Um, Plus, it's hard not to love my fellow compatriots in the telling of this story. Everyone was focused and really loved the story that we got to tell. So I learned a lot from watching all of their journeys, and I thought everybody was beautifully matched to their roles. So that was wonderful to see.
You will get no arguments from me. It was absolutely wonderful. I think I'm all out of time. Before Michael, before I let you go, I just have to say you picked the most amazing roles. I was just everything that I love, you're in it for some reason. The Shape of Water, Call Me by Your Name. The other day, my wife had never seen Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, and I played the pilot for her, and there you were, and I was like, oh my God, it's Michael Stuhlbarg. But congratulations, and thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you. It's lovely to meet you, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
When all of this, when the
Someday.
world opens up again, yes.
Keep on
It's been a
believing.
pleasure.
Thank you.
I will. Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
These people, my people, trusted me. I can't believe how many of them are dead now.
That was Michael Stuhlbarg. He plays Richard Sackler in the TV series Dopesick. Don't forget to check it out on Disney Plus Hotstar. Sound off in the comments below once you do. It is absolutely incredible. We highly, highly recommend it. Also, don't forget we've got plenty of other videos right here on YouTube, so do the needful. Watch them, like them, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family. Go on, you know what to do.